Today, your amygdala, which was really evolved to save you from getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, is not as relevant in a professional setting when you're sitting in a
It's
conference
true.
room with 5 colleagues talking about a real estate transaction. But the way you interpret that is, this is life or death. I'm in the jungle. I'm
Yes.
going to get eaten by a tiger.
Today's episode is brought to you by my good friend Andy Bovender, the founder of the Bovender team out of the Carolinas. Him and his team have helped more than 5,000 families. So if you have that client who's been thinking about making a move to or from that area, they are the team to call. Today's episode is with the one and only Rory Golod, and we talk about his daily practices, how he stays focused. We talk about the direction of compass and the culture. Speaking of culture, have you been wanting or needing a group of really amazing agents to hang out with, learn from, and share with, and hopefully, potentially, even pass a referral to and from? If so, take a look at the link below for the Inner Circle group. We meet every other week and we do everything I just shared. As always, I'm your host and referral partner from San Francisco, Shawn Kunkler. Rory, thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dude, this was hard for us to put together. You are a busy guy, so I appreciate you carving out the time.
I appreciate your flexibility and patience. It's my schedule can be a little intense. So
I think intense is a very kind way of putting it. Jacob has like one heck of a job over there. So
Jacob's, for everyone listening, Jacob's my chief of staff, and he's amazing. He's got a tough job, but the great thing about him. He's incredibly calm and consistent and measured. So even if my schedule is going crazy, even if I'm going crazy, he's one of these people who's just very even keeled, very calm. So it's nice to be able to rely on him.
I mean, he's in the right industry. I mean, it's, being from the I know you work with agents, but being in the actual agency when something is blowing up and you're calm and the other agent is calm, it just makes life way easier for the client.
Totally. I mean, in every facet of life, that's the case.
True.
And I think we almost need to remind ourselves of that, because it's really easy in sort of the heat of an emotional moment, whether it's at work, whether it's personally, in relationships, whatever. It's, if someone could just tap you on the shoulder and be like, all right, hold on, come over here for 10 seconds, take 2 deep breaths, and then step back into whatever. Think about all the good that would come from that. There's nothing bad that would ever come from that reaction. So yeah, in our business especially.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make it's a great point, is sometimes when you just take a beat, no matter what it is, and more often than not, we have the space to, we tell ourselves we tell ourselves like this is open heart surgery and we have to connect these 2 valves right now. But the reality is it can usually wait. And even chemically, it takes our brain 20 minutes to come down from a heated experience, just chemically to go back to neutral. And hopefully I'm not divulging anything, but you're avid into the health and fitness and working out and meditating. Do you find being consistent with that helps you in this business world?
Absolutely. It's, I got really into that stuff, not solely for the performance side of it. I think there's sort of a whole side of, well, if I do these things, I'll perform better at work. I actually got into it more so just to feel better. I'd always been into health and wellness, but sort of casually into it, meaning I'd go to the gym like 2 days a week, and I would not drink soda, but like wouldn't particularly focus on what I ate. I didn't do anything around meditation or breath work, nothing around sort of like supplements or sauna, cold plunge, like none of that stuff was part of the equation. And I think for a lot of people that started to become the thing during COVID, because we were all at home and we had a quick moment to sort of step back from our lives and started trying to figure out things that we could do, and also just in a heightened moment of anxiety. And I think it's one of the reasons like people start to get like really focused on it. And for me, around 2021, 2022, work got incredibly challenging and complicated, because you had this wild seesaw. You had 2020 COVID, we all go from interacting in person every single day to we're working from our homes. In my case,
Yeah.
that was a small apartment in Manhattan. So you had that. Then, and we all kind of for a couple of weeks thought the world was ending. And then all of a sudden our
Sure.
business just completely takes off and we're having to figure it out in a disconnected virtual way. Then 2021, our industry goes through the roof. We haven't seen anything like that in decades. Then 2022, all of a sudden, that roller coaster, you get to the top and then boom, just drops off. And by the end of 2022, we are in sort of a 40-year low in terms of, run rate transaction count, that basically we've been in that sort of trough for the last couple of years. And so I think I'd always been someone who just rolled with things pretty well. But I think the enormity of all of those things, plus Compass being at that point a public company, the responsibility of that, us still trying to grow the company and navigate it. And then just, life, being a husband, being a father, all those things. It got to a point where it was like, wow, I think I'm actually having a hard time. And I started getting sort of just more curious. And it really what spurred me to it was my executive coach, Doug Pardo. He sent me a book. He sent me 2 books to read. One was called Breath by James Nestor, which is all about breathing.
Great book.
Incredible book. Highly, highly recommend it. Some people, when I recommend it, they're like, a 300-page book about breathing. I'm like, no idea. It should be 600 pages. And then he sent me another one called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's this like amazing sort of more modern philosophy book. And I read both of them. And they kicked off this incredible sort of self-exploration journey into meditation, mindfulness, getting more serious about health and wellness. And that kind of sent me down the rabbit hole. Like we always find something we get curious about and go down the rabbit hole. And so, fast forward a couple of years and now I think of this stuff as like a great hobby almost. And I've integrated into my life in many different ways. And I think to your point, it can be massively beneficial. There are multiple moments I've witnessed sort of myself in the last year or two where, whether it's breath work, meditation, things I've read, sort of inner exploration about myself, my own triggers, what makes me tick, all these different things that have actually really helped me in the professional setting. I'll see it. I'll be in a meeting and maybe I'll say something differently, or maybe I won't say something. Sometimes it's about what you don't say, or I'll handle an interaction differently. And I will, think about it later on and be like, oh, that's because I did that, or I did this. And then when you start seeing those unlocks, then you're like, all right, I want to do more of this. And so, and that's nothing new, right? The best athletes in the world, they've worked with sports psychologists forever. They've worked with performance coaches. There is so many aspects of this we see in our everyday, right? Why is it that we tell our kids when they get really emotional, take a deep breath? That's not an accidental statement. There's a reason behind that, right? So yeah. So I found that it's had a massive impact. Massive.
Hey friends, I have a small favor to ask. For me to continue to bring you outstanding guests who share their best kept secrets for growing a successful real estate business, please take a moment and hit that like button so agents like you can find this content. And also hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Now back to our show. It's interesting. Similar to you, peak COVID, life stops. I don't know when I'm going to make money again. We're in San Francisco, deemed not essential, can't work. I'm like freaking out. And I really heavily turned to meditation. And I remember I was like, I was sitting with my family at dinner. And at this point, I was probably a couple months in consistently from meditating. And I remember it's so hard to explain and articulate, but everything slowed down. And I was able to observe the interaction and then decide on my response. in such a different, I can't even, it sounds like you probably had a similar and have had similar experiences.
It's funny you're saying I can't describe it, but as you said, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think, actually, it's funny. We were talking about the untethered soul. So Michael Singer, who wrote the book, and it's an amazing book. He talks about you're not your thoughts, that
True.
the self, right, who we are, is different than our thoughts. Our thoughts are a construct in our mind. It doesn't mean we are them. It's just things that we think.
Yeah.
And in many ways, our mind is actually pre-programmed to trick us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And there's sort of the meditation side of this. There's the spiritual side. There's also the neurological side.
Yes.
I started doing a lot of reading and listening, a lot of listening. So the great thing about, we live in a world today of podcasts, of YouTube, of, the positive side of social media, where you can pick up a lot of this content.
Yeah.
And, when you actually learn about your brain and you figure, okay, in a moment of stress or fear, what is activated and what isn't, right? In moments of heightened fear, when your amygdala, the part of your brain that's one of the oldest parts of your brain, sort of as people talk about that reptilian brain, that's there to basically wired in to protect you from threats. The
Correct.
challenge is that for a very long time, those threats were, natural disasters, getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, things like that.
Yeah.
We've evolved at a rate that's incredibly fast, really the last 2,000 years, but evolution in terms of our actual makeup, neurologically, physiologically, doesn't change really in 2,000 years. So today, your amygdala, which was really evolved to save you from getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, is not as relevant in a professional setting when you're sitting in a conference room with 5 colleagues talking about a real estate transaction. But the way you interpret that is, this is life or death. I'm in the jungle. Yes. I'm going to get eaten by a tiger. And so you have to sort of remember that. And then you learn about, okay, if that's what that is there for, and then you have your prefrontal cortex, which is the front of your brain, which is the newer part of your brain in terms of how old and how long these evolved. And that's there for rational decision-making. That's there for processing information. That's there to sort of, and that gets overridden when your amygdala is fired up. You start to like step back, and when you understand this, it gives you an ability to almost observe yourself. And you can say, okay, I'm feeling a certain way, and I can understand why. And when I understand why, then I can actually watch it. And that's, I think, kind of what you're talking about, where things start to slow down. Now, when you talk about this, sometimes with people, they think it's perfect. Okay, what you and I have experienced with this, it happens infrequently. This is not like every day.
Correct.
Right? It's not like I'm not, I wish, exactly. Then we'd be superhuman. But it's something where that when you start to kind of get it a little bit, it can be really helpful. And I think it can definitely change the lens in how you think about stuff.
And it's fascinating, additionally, from doing this podcast and talking to so many top performers, meditation is a through line with I would say the vast majority. And then behind that, the physical side of it, working out. All of the top performers, not everybody, but most, were athletes in some capacity, either professional, D1. And so there's like the physical component of it. And then, which I think is also hinged to the psychology, but then the work ethic. And so there's the multiple layers kind of back into to build the whole.
Well, and also, I have a friend of mine is very much into yoga, and they always say yoga, it's moving meditation, which is the thing you hear often, right? There's meditation, which is, what people think of it traditionally, like sitting down in lotus position with your eyes closed and your hands like this. And that's like a certain thing. Then there's also other forms of things you wouldn't think are meditation. For some people, going to the gym, going for a run is sort of meditative. The output you get is similar. There's a practice that I have, which you wouldn't think is meditation. I'm a diehard golfer. It's challenging to play as frequently as I want, given, what I do and having, a young child. But I love going to the driving range and hitting golf balls. And it's actually a meditative type thing for me.
100%.
Because you're outside, you block out everything else, and you
Yeah.
just do this consistent motion. You're just, I'm not even necessarily always doing it I'm not necessarily practicing, right? I'm not like tinkering. I'm just hitting them,
Yeah.
and I'll just kind of go through it, and 45 minutes will go by, and I basically stop thinking about anything other than just being present and swinging the golf club. And I find myself sometimes enjoying that even more sometimes than even playing the game. So for people, meditation doesn't have to be just what we think it is. It can be sort of anything that gets us out of our thoughts and into a reflective state where we're able to just be present with ourselves,
Yeah.
and then look at ourselves and the world around us in a slightly different way. And the beautiful thing is, if people are like, oh, how do I get started? You can literally go on Spotify or YouTube and type in meditation and get every tutorial, everything you need to know can be right there in your fingertips.
Yeah, and you made a really good point earlier that social media can definitely be the devil at this point.
Yep.
But there's, on the flip side, you can hang out with so many amazing mentors with incredible ease for the first time in world history. And
That's
you
right.
can literally, you can listen to an audiobook read by the author. Like
Yeah.
that's 20 years ago, that was not a thing.
No.
You can listen to an interview with them. And so within that, there's so many different types of meditation. And to your point, there's like Tai Chi, there's yoga, there's the physical meditations, there's the empty mind, there's the chanting, there's, and I would say if somebody's curious of learning it, just start exploring it. Like
Yeah,
it's,
exactly. There's no right or wrong way.
there's no right or wrong, and it's similar to like finding a good pair of shoes. It's like sometimes you're just trying a few and then you
Yeah,
put on the right pair and you're like,
exactly.
wow, this works. And
Exactly.
then you run with that for a while. Then if you hit a plateau, you parlay. But it's funny, I very much have been in and out of gyms my whole life. I ran martial arts schools, and so
Wow.
those are all for me aspects of meditation also. Like if you're mid set and you're moving weight and you're fatigued, the only thing you're thinking about is that muscle and getting that thing done. You're not
I
worrying
think
about
I think your
anything
brain
else.
actually sort of in that moment reprograms to focus you on that, because
Yeah,
if you don't, you can't physically do the motion, right? Like if you're laying
true.
flat on a bench and you're bench pressing a lot of weight,
Yeah,
then you're in a position where if you don't actually only focus on that, you
yeah,
physically can't do it. And you also could hurt yourself. So
yeah,
there's a sense of your mind says, I need to do this because I'm lifting this heavy thing. And if I'm not focused and I just let go of it, it could fall on me, it could fall on someone else.
yeah.
Right. So you're right. And I don't know. There's this. I'm hearing now people who are going really far with this, who are like, you shouldn't work out with music. You shouldn't work out with podcasts. It's almost like too distracting. You should just get all in. I'm
Interesting.
like, okay, that's like a whole other side that I wouldn't have thought of, but it is kind of interesting if you think about it. For a long time, we've been doing physical things without having something in our ear to distract us in a way. So I don't know. That's like maybe like level 3. I'm not there.
Have you been completely neglecting your newsletter, social media, or any of your outbound marketing? If so, I have a solution for you. With little to no commitment, a virtual assistant can jump in and help you in those areas you just don't have the time for. For more information about hiring a virtual assistant, go ahead and follow the link in the description below. Yeah, it's funny. I do remember, God, this is a long, like probably 20 years ago. There was a study of people who did cardio watching TV versus those who didn't. And those who didn't did see better results because they were more in the
Yeah, it
moment.
makes sense,
But
right?
my argument to that is if watching TV makes it more entertaining and you'll do it,
And you'll do it, then
do
it's worth
that. Like, unless you're like Jay Cutler trying to like win a champion, which he's now retired. But
it. No,
if
yeah,
you're like at this elite level, then yeah, maybe you shouldn't.
yeah,
But if you're not, it's fine. Like
it's
it's
probably
better
okay.
to do it and than to not do it at all. Did
Totally.
I think Robert just made a little cameo right behind you for us
I
a
see.
hot
Yeah,
second.
yeah. We're in our headquarters in Manhattan. So, yeah, I don't know what he's always around doing something. So
Dude, you guys are all. I mean, it's insane. You guys. I mean,
we're in the office. We're a 5 days a week in office company, and it's something that him and I are actually talking about this morning. It's something he championed very early on, as early as 2022. He was pushing really hard for it, and I think it's one of the best decisions that we made as a company to push hard to be 5 days a week on the employee side in office. If it were up to me, I would love all of our agents to be 5 days a week in the office. I recognize that there's a lot going on. It's hard to actually do that, but I think it's something that is really special about Compass. And it was challenging to do. People got used to a certain way of working that was more convenient, but the positives of it so far outweigh the negatives. And I think about, for him as CEO, he's in the office. I was talking to someone who just joined our team, an employee who joined 2 weeks ago. And they mentioned how it's so great that, I sit 30 feet away from the CEO and I can walk up and say hi to Robert. He's in the office and we talk and we've gotten to know each other and we've built a relationship. And imagine that employee, if you're virtual, they're never going to have that. They would have to be on a meeting with him with a small group or one-on-one, and that opportunity might not present itself. And so, and that's not only unfortunate for them, then it's also unfortunate for Robert, because then that's one less person at the company that he can connect with and get to know. And, I always tell, I guess maybe because I'm getting older now, I'm starting to get people who reach out and are like, hey, I have kids who are, in college or in high school and they're thinking about their careers. Will you talk to them? And oftentimes what I'm telling young people now is, do not take a virtual job as your first job out of school.
No.
Because
I
you will
agree.
put yourself at a massive disadvantage. And sort of, I'm an example of that. I joined Compass in 2014, if that would have been 10 years later, if that was 2024 and the company were just starting, same thing, but it was virtual, 10 years from that point, I wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation like this. And I'm probably one of the best examples of someone who benefited from in-person connectivity, learning, mentorship, guidance. And, I think it's crazy that is a thing we're even talking about, but
it's fascinating and interesting. There's definitely, like, don't get me wrong, there's a mass convenience to rolling out of bed and firing up the computer and getting to work. But when you don't interact with other humans, even if you're an introvert, it does start to erode on you. It starts to build weird anxieties. We all saw it coming out of COVID. But the other side of it is there's just serendipitous moments. You're staring at a screen, scratching your head, and somebody's like, hey, are you all right? Yeah. You're like, I'm stuck on this problem. They're like, oh, have you tried X, Y, and Z? You're like, no, but wow.
It's real. So it's so funny you say this. I had this exact example this morning. So we announced about 2 weeks ago, we hired a chief legal officer, Ethan Glass. Ethan is one of the best in the world at what he does. He was, worked at the Department of Justice for almost a decade. He was at one of the top law firms in the world, focused on antitrust litigation. He understands more about the world of listings, NAR, MLSs, all of these things. And he is truly, I would give the example of, if we were in, a market, let's say somewhere in the country, he is like your top agent in the market. Like, he is the best at what he does. And he joined Compass 2 weeks ago, and he lives in DC, but he's in the office here in New York, 4 to 5 days a week. And I was telling him today how much I appreciated it that he's doing that and he's here, because we've gotten to know each other. And just in the last 2 weeks alone, I feel like we've worked together for multiple years. And one of the funny things is that I noticed on his first day, he was wearing Nike Air Force Ones. And then the next day he wore Nike Dunks with his suit. So he's got his suit on, but he's wearing Nikes. And I'm not like an obsessed, sneaker collector and sneakerhead, but I definitely but enough where, like, so of course I'm like, nice Dunks. And then we're talking. And then the next day he was wearing a different pair and we were going back and forth on it. And I also just thought it was so cool because here's this guy that is this incredibly successful esteemed attorney in this important role at the company. And it's funny, if we were on a video screen, I would only know him from sort of wearing a suit.
It's
And
true.
now I see that he's wearing Nikes, and we start talking, and then we're like comparing. Then the next day I wore a pair to like try to show a pair I had off to him. And like, that's a silly little thing that
Yes.
actually built this interesting connection and trust. And then that leads to, then this morning we're talking about kids, and I find out that he has 2 daughters and I have one daughter and a daughter on the way. And so I'm asking him, hey, what's it like that, his kids are 13 and 15. So how is it when you travel and you're not around your kids all the time? Because I travel all the time for work, and my daughter's 5, and I'm trying to like figure it out. And these are all the things that just would not happen if we were not in person. And that builds bonds that will actually generate better work outcomes aside from friendships,
100%. And you said something really super important in there. It builds trust. And it's that day when he proposes an idea and you're like, I don't know, but you're like, you know what? But I trust him. And it's like woven into all these other interactions, in addition to his actual market experience and knowledge. And
yes, that's such a good point.
And it's those too, we all seen it. We've seen it through school and through the evolutions. And as an agent, I have it with clients. It's well after the fact that people leaving companies or buying and selling multiple homes, you stay friends with them. And it's from like a psychological perspective, it's depth and width. Like if we only know a narrow but deep thing about a person, we don't have a good relationship. An example would be your dentist. It's like, they're an amazing dentist and a lot about their dentistry from going to them for years, but you don't have any width. But as soon as width comes in, you're like, oh, you play a Gibson? Oh, you shoot with these clubs? Oh, you just played here and you have 2 daughters? Oh, dude, and you're rocking Jordans? It's like now the relationships gets width. And to your point, you don't get width from, we're doing video screen, unfortunately, but we're missing a piece of the width.
Well, the nice thing is we're creating depth because this is a forum to do it. But if we were on a meeting right now, like
with an agenda,
we had a meeting about an agenda or a topic.
Correct. I agree.
There's no depth. I like how you dropped the Gibson thing in there. That's cool.
I have a story about a Gibson.
I got to hear it. So we're talking about Gibson guitars. So
I'm like the 3rd worst guitar player in like California. Just so it's like on the record. Just so
you're better than 2 other people.
Who knows why? So peak COVID, I was losing my mind. And so part of what I did was I literally cleared out half of my garage and built this amazing gym to give myself a sanctuary. Then at that point, I have 2 boys, both in college right now. One of them, by the way, is a sneakerhead. Totally got me down that rabbit hole. I do own a few Dunks and Jordans.
Nice.
I have a pair of Travis's, which I'm very happy about.
There you go. Okay, cool.
But the youngest, everybody plays. My fiance plays. The 2 boys play.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they all play guitar.
Wow, that's so cool.
And so then I was like, I'm going to learn to play guitar, and it didn't go well. But Grayson went from acoustic to electric, and he got a Fender. Like the day that he switched to electric, it was like the floodgates opened. You could not get this kid to not play. Like it was unbelievable. And then Nolan, for context, this kid's got such a good ear that one day he was like, hey, Shawn, check this out. He takes the tuner and puts it to his throat and then goes, watch, pick a letter or pick a note. And I was like, E. And he's like, and does an E.
Oh, wow. So he has perfect pitch. So
perfect.
He knows.
Like perfect. And so anyways, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start learning, but I can't just like get a guitar. So then I went down the total rabbit hole and I wound up buying myself a Gibson, and which amazing. Now.
What kind did you get?
The Studio with
Les Paul?
It's a Les Paul.
Yeah, Les Paul Studio. Yeah, of course.
With it's beautiful, but it now is it sits in a case.
Well, if you ever want someone to take it off your hands, tell me.
We'll have to talk. We'll talk.
Yeah. We'll barter for it. That's so cool. That's awesome though. Then you can kind of, if you think of it this way, if you put in a half hour a day for 3 months, which isn't a lot of time,
It's not.
you 3 months from now will be able to jam with your whole family and have a ton of fun.
Dude,
It's
and
just
I
that,
had,
that hurdle you got to get over.
yeah, I mean, I was starting to get a little bit better at it, and I was doing the apps, and watching a bunch of stuff on YouTube. But to your point, I just wasn't allocating time to do it. I was prioritizing working out and just
Yeah,
other.
it's hard. It's like anything, right? And even for people, I mean, I've been playing since I was 10,
Wow.
and so I've been playing 30 years basically. And it's funny you
Yeah.
say, because my dad is a huge rock and roll guy. He's been to over 250 concerts at least. I mean, and he's seen real concerts. I'm sitting in Manhattan right now. I'm looking out the window at 15th and 5th, and about 5 blocks from where I'm sitting right now, there
Yeah.
used to be a venue in New York City back in the 60s and 70s called the Fillmore East. There's the Fillmore West, which in
Yes.
San Francisco, very famous, Bill Graham's Fillmore,
Amazing. Yeah.
and he had the Fillmore East. And the Fillmore East was a theater, and it was 1,800 people max, small. Because
Yeah.
before the arenas became where you saw concerts, you saw people in venues like that.
Yeah.
And so, he saw Jimi Hendrix New Year's Eve, 1969 at the Fillmore East. So just imagine that. New Year's Eve,
Crazy.
1969, you see Jimi Hendrix play in front of 1,800 people.
That's
And I
insane.
was joking with him. I go, I think you're on more live albums than anyone in the world, because that's a live album. It's an amazing one. Then probably
Yeah.
one of the most famous rock live albums, Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore East. He's on that album because he saw them 7 times there. Um,
Jeez.
all
He's
these
got good
great
taste in
bands.
music too.
He's so growing up as a kid, driving in the car on Saturdays doing errands, all we're listening to is classic rock.
Yeah.
And
All I grew up on.
all that's it. And it was like, this is Hendrix, this is Pink Floyd, this is the
Yeah.
Doors, this is, this is the Who. And that's how sort of I learned. And then he got me guitar lessons when I was a first grader, and he got me an acoustic. And it just, for whatever reason, it just, you're a young kid. I was probably 7. It just didn't do it for me. It was
Yeah.
acoustic.
You're not a rocker. It's not what they
And
all had.
as an adult now, I love it and I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And I love playing acoustic guitar, but then I didn't play at all. And I just was like, it's not really my thing. And then when I was in 5th grade, he bought me a Fender Strat, and he bought me an
Damn.
electric. And when I plugged it in, and just the sound and the amplification and the noise of it,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, now I'm hooked. And then, him getting me guitar lessons and paying for guitar lessons for
Yeah.
5 years, probably the greatest gift he could have given me. And then I was just kind of off and running. And now I play, I was up till 12:30 at night last night playing. Like, it's,
Love it.
it's, it's now a huge part of, but I think if you're going to get anyone into it, whether it's your kids, whether it's you're trying to get into yourself,
Yeah.
I think starting with electric, it's just a little easier to get you over the hump, and it's easier to play. So
Yeah. It's easier to hide it's easier to hide with an
just hide
electric.
kind of behind the noise of it. It's like,
Yeah. Which makes it just it's
yeah,
more fun. But I have to say, to the like Christmas, Thanksgiving, it with everybody will pull out guitars, and it becomes like this really cool jam session, karaoke session, and
it's so fun.
it is by far the most fun. And then that's parlayed into Grayson has the most unbelievable album collection. And
Wow.
just so I'll have to send you photos, man. So we kind of have the living room with the TV, then we have a family room. And in the family room, Cielo does a lot of things, but she also did concert photography. And so when you go to the bigger venues, they have the pit, which is there's a
Yes,
gap
yep,
in between the audience and
of
the
course, yep.
stage. She would be able to shoot from the pit. And so we have a few of her photos, like massive, blown up on the wall. Like Tom Petty is up there, Flea is up there, and like up close with like sweat,
Yeah. Just
amazing photos. And then
yeah.
next to that is the record player. And then it's like just this, it's just like a really cool, fun jam space. And then there's, I have a really nice amp, old school amp.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it's like it's always the place where everybody just comes and hangs out. They'll hang out with their friends and the family. It's a really cool spot.
That's great. That's fantastic.
As your daughters get older, and if they do get in music, a really incredibly fun thing to do, if you remember this many years from now, you can order pedal kits online, and you can actually build your own kit. And I asked Grayson last year, I was like, hey, what's one of your favorite childhood memories? And he said, sitting down and building that pedal.
Building the pedal kit. Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. All right. You did give me a good idea.
You have many years to wait. So you'll have to plant that way
fine.
back somewhere in the back of your mind.
I'm doing that now, but yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm super curious within your role within Compass, in the direction of Compass, which I feel like is, my goodness, they make different strides week over week. What are you most passionate about?
What am I most passionate about? I think that the thing that I really like about our business and the company, I say there's probably two things. One, that we're a people business, a relationship driven business, because then you can actually like feel the impact of the work you're doing. That if we were a company that had a brand that offered a product or a service to just like many millions of consumers that you never meet, then they just become a concept. And I think you look at it on a spreadsheet, right? But I think the difference at Compass is all of our agents, these are people I see every day. These are people I email with, text, call, meet in person. These are people I know. These are people who are friends. Some of these people I've known for a decade plus. I mean, and you have that at work usually with your colleagues, the people you work alongside. And I have that with our employees, but then also have it with, if you think about agents as the client of Compass, to have it also then with the client as well.
Yeah.
It just makes it, I think, a lot more special and a lot more meaningful, because when you're doing something, you know who's getting the impact. You see the impact, you feel it. When I see our agents loving things that we're doing, loving whether it's we launch a piece of technology or we announce an initiative or we help support them in some way, it's just a lot more meaningful than if this was just a product or a service that just went to a large number of people who you never really meet and are sort of faceless names. So that's number one. And number two, I think the fact that we are just consistently pushing ourselves to get better and better and better. We're always, as you said, the reason we're always doing new things is because we want to get better. We want to improve. We're not okay with okay. And that can be tiring. And even at some points, a little frustrating, because there are moments where you're like, okay, like when is enough enough? But I think that mindset is just a really healthy space to be in, because you're always going to be looking to improve and get better. And that's where good stuff comes from. Yeah. And I think as a company, it's a great dynamic between our agents expecting that from us and pushing us to do that, and then us working hard to deliver it. And then we feel great about it, then they feel good. And then it's like, okay, how do we get better and better and better? I've never had a day at Compass ever in December 1st will be my 11-year anniversary.
Congrats. It's huge.
I've come in and been bored.
Yeah, I don't think you have time to be bored.
And a lot of that is because we're constantly true. But why? Because we're constantly pushing to try more and to improve. And that's a luxury.
It's interesting that you say that. And if you kind of, as I reflect back in the early part of the conversation, you got into meditation and fitness because you were curious. And I feel like there's the same spirit behind Compass of there's a curiosity of how do we make this thing better? It's working okay, but that's not okay. How do we actually improve this for the actual buyer or for the seller or for the agent? And I see it from my seat of being the consumer, if you will, of the product, that there's constant rollouts. It's a little hard to keep track of sometimes because there's so much.
We do. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little,
sometimes it's a lot, but I get it. There's a spirit of that constant and never ending growth and improvement. And And there is a culture of how do we make this better, which I appreciate, because it's not dissimilar from the way that I need to think about working with a client. If I work with a seller, I can't just do okay. It's how do I make it better the next time?
Yeah, and that's ultimately, I think, like, you would want to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that every day you're doing something to improve.
Yeah.
And it sounds cliche and very cheesy, but I think if you think about, and this is just sort of a guess I have, but I would imagine that people who are not content in their jobs, who don't like what they do, probably feel some sense of, when they look in the mirror, they don't necessarily feel like they're getting better,
Yeah.
or they don't feel like they're being challenged or pushed. And that can be so stifling, that in fact, in some ways, it's probably like one of the things I'm most afraid of, would be working in a way where I was not being pushed and challenged and
Yeah.
getting better. And so it's probably the thing I love the most about our company. And it's a very unique thing to our company.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's not just from Robert, but you see it collectively through the management.
Yeah, well, he sets the tone in that way. I mean, he is the
100%. That's
ultimate tone setter when it comes to obsessing about opportunity. You know, it's something that I think is very core to how we got here, because again, nothing for us was given. We had to build it. This is a company that we all built, all of us, me, you, every person who's at Compass made a choice and took a risk to leave somewhere else and come here. And in many cases,
true.
especially people who left, either agents who left companies that were very successful, companies that were really well known, top brands, to come to a company that was a newer company.
Yeah.
There were employees who left other jobs where they were successful and comfortable. And even today, even with, where Compass is today, there's still people every day coming here who are taking a risk. And I think when you do that, and you feel like you have some stake in it, no matter how big or small that stake is emotionally, it's just going to push you to want to get better. And it's the difference between feeling like an entrepreneur and feeling like a custodian, where you're just maintaining something, versus for me, I feel
It's a great point.
a sense of, if I'm not here pushing every day and growing and helping, then I actually worry about the company. I worry about the thing that we're all trying to do. Now, the good news for us is that there's thousands of people here. So if I take a day off, it's okay. That's probably a problem I have, which I probably should take more time off. But I think having that mindset's actually a good thing, because one of my mentors once told me, look, if you can take a month off from your job and no one really knows or misses you, or your boss says, yeah, sure, then it's time to leave. And
That's
would
a great
anyone
way to
miss
look
you?
at it.
If
True.
you were gone for a month, would your phone be blowing up? Would people miss you? Would there be an issue? And if the answer is no, then that's probably not the right place. And the cool thing about being an agent is that's the best example. You take a month off, it's not easy. You're going to have issues. And so, it's an interesting way kind of to think about it.
Yeah, I would love to take a month off. I tried to take
I
2
would
weeks
have
off.
massive anxiety from doing it, but I'm inspired to do it. So we have a thing here where, as an employee, if you've been here 5 years, for every 5 years you're here, you get a 1 month sabbatical.
Amazing.
And I've been here 11, and I never took the one from the first 5. So I think I technically should have 2 months. And my colleague Netta, she, like me, works insanely hard and has a ton of responsibility here. And this summer she took her, she's been here probably 7 or 8 years. She took her 1 month sabbatical.
Amazing.
And I remember when she was, right before she took it, I was like, oh my God, I wish I could do this too. I would have so much anxiety though. And she was just like, yeah, but you know what? I'm just going for it. And when she came back at the end, so she took it like mid-July, and then she came back mid-August. And by the way, while she was out, it wasn't like a pure sabbatical, because I was still texting her and sending her. We were still going back and forth. We're working through things. So it was like a 70% sabbatical. But I remember when she came back and we were dealing with this really complicated thing, and she was so calm and mellow about it. And she's like, yeah, whatever, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, God, you're so calm about this right now. Like, how? And she's like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm coming back from being off for a month, and this will probably wear off at some point. And I remember at that moment in my head, I was like, okay, I need that. So she inspired me. I think I'm going to try to do it next summer. So we'll
Make
see.
it so, man.
I know I mean, it's almost, it's kind of pathetic that that it's this difficult for me to sort of actualize this when the company is saying, no, go do this thing.
Yeah.
And I actually know that most of my colleagues would actually probably want me to go do it. But, every now and then, take a little break.
I mean, it's an extended meditation, and I
There we
guarantee
go.
you'll
All
come
right. Now
back
that you put
with.
it that way.
I mean, that's what it is. Like I've had the opportunity of not having a month off, but having like a little bit longer periods, and yeah, you come back with this. You just feel renewed, refreshed. It's kind of like you work out. If you work out all the time, and you do just, if you just did light, like you just for a week, don't lift anything heavy, and then after that come back to go back to lifting heavy, you're like, oh my god, like
Yeah. Yeah.
everything's healed.
Yeah.
And so I really think there is something to it, of it kind of just refills all the coffers in your brain.
Yeah. I like
And
that.
so, but I think if you just make it so,
Yeah.
it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll structure it, like you'll, as you build up to it. Like if I just recently took 2 weeks off, and I worked half of one of those weeks, which is amazing. If you're an agent, the moment you try to step away, you get 3 people in contract. It's like
You know,
literally the day of.
it's so true. It's funny. Dana Green, who, is one of our top agents in NorCal in Lafayette, and she doesn't work weekends. And it's a thing. So she works with Steve Scholl, who's one of the top real estate coaches in the industry.
He's
and
incredible. Yeah.
He's amazing. I love Steve, and he's a close friend. And a lot of what he helps coach agents on is build process into your business so that you can take time off, so you can be a normal human being and have, breaks and boundaries. And all the things we fear about that are actually irrational fears. And so when you see someone
It's true.
who, Dana's got an incredible business, is one of the top agents in the United States. And for her to have the infrastructure and the setup and the process dialed in, if she can do it, we all can do it. And
100%.
I guarantee right now, if she were on here, she would be touting all the benefits of it. And she would tell you that she hasn't lost any business. It's sort of a story we tell ourselves, in the same way that if I took that month, the world would be fine. We'd be good. And so, and time is not stopping for that. I used to make these excuses. Like, I'm going to wait till my daughter's older, because then we'll take that month and we'll do all this stuff, right? If she's 12 or 16, we can go travel and go to Europe. But then at that point, I probably would be like, I should have done it when she was 6, because then we could have done all these things. And then I'd probably have another excuse of, oh no, let's wait till, she's in high school now. No, let's wait till she's out of college. Then I'll take it. And then you end up sort of in a place where you get too far down the road and you never did it, and you regret not doing it. And so I'm gonna figure out a way to do it next summer. And
Great.
Yeah. But I'll probably be telling everyone to call me and keep you updated.
Just keep me updated.
Yeah,
and that's fine, as long as you're not obligated to be anywhere. That's when you get to recharge. But I assure you, you're not going to regret spending time with your family.
No, never. There is never a moment I spend with my daughter where I ever regret it. And I'm sort of in that mode now, because she's 5, where these are these years that it is.
5 is awesome. 5 is fun.
It's incredible. And I know, and it's going very fast. And I already know, because I've, heard enough parents who are older than me say, when she's 15, when she's 20, when she's 25, when she's 30, you will give anything to go back to when she was 5 in those years. So I try to, even last night, she was driving me crazy, not wanting to go to sleep, trying to get her down for bed. My wife and I are, doing all the tactics, trying to get her to go to sleep. And I was like, I gotta go send this thing. And normally I'd default to just going and, sending the email or doing something. I'm like, you know what? The extra 5 minutes with her right now, I'm gonna really, I'll never regret not doing that. And so I just like pushed it off, and then I went back in her room, and then we, hung out for a couple more minutes, and then I finally gave her a kiss goodnight. And so just that tiny little interaction. So it's a good reminder that I kind of keep of always like, and again, you can't let it drive you crazy. I still travel a lot for work.
Yeah.
She's in school all day. So we're not meant to hang out every single moment of every day, but just trying to peel back a couple little interactions a week as extra to remind myself of like, soak it up while you can. Because when she's 15, it's gonna be like, Dad, you're lame. I want to do something with my friends. And I'm just gonna have to accept that.
Yeah. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it goes by so fast. And our youngest just went to college in New York, upstate New York. And so seeing him is that much harder. And now the house is empty, and the oldest is down in LA, and you just wish you can just hang out with him. Like, it gets like, but to your point, it's like you have all these other things happening. But I would say one of the best super simple things that we did was we just made a family rule that there's no phones at the table.
Love that.
And just talking to people and your family, and just being like, hey, how was your day? What was the best part of your day? And having that connection, it makes the teen years easier, because they view you a little bit more as an ally rather than like
that's
an
right.
adversary.
That's absolutely right. I love that. No phones at the dinner table. I like that.
Rory, man, this was fun, and I appreciate you taking the time.
You know what? I love that we didn't actually talk about real estate really at all.
We did quite a bit.
Yeah, I think actually that we didn't get into all the normal stuff I talk about on these things.
I hate doing that normal stuff.
Yeah, I'm so happy we actually did. I normally I'd be here talking about 3-phase marketing, Compass AI, the big news of this week. I actually love that we didn't really get into that. This was a lot of fun.
No, and I appreciate that we didn't take that traditional route, and I appreciate you taking that journey with me. But I personally, I feel success leaves clues, not just those things that we do in the day-to-day, but like who we are as people, and learning that you meditate and you play guitar. And these are ways that we reset. So when we show up with everybody else, for everybody else, we're a better person. And so I think that's, ironically, I think we talked quite a bit about real estate, because all of it parlays into.
All right. What I like how you did that there. That's good. That's good. Well, thank you for having me on.
That is a wrap, and I'll see you soon, man.
I'll see you soon. Thanks.